Okay, so for the final part of this series, I want to talk a little bit about how to make uh, backgrounds, specifically moving backgrounds. Now, method number one, we kind of showed a little bit before in class, where we could basically take a drawing, like something we have over here, bring it into Animate, and the big thing that we would have to do is make sure that it's bigger than the actual canvas than we have. The reason for that being is, see, for example, this area over here, this would be the visible spot, and everything else beyond that would not be visible. If we do it this way, we could actually make a background that we can move around, zoom in, zoom out, and all the other fun stuff. So that's definitely one way that you can approach that. Now, another method that you could approach it is you can work with one that's a little bit more procedural. In other words, basically make some assets ahead of time and then basically move them around a little bit. This is a method kind of inspired by old Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which one of the best examples I've seen of this is actually from the show The Simpsons. Now, check this out.
Wow, it must be expensive to produce all these cartoons.
Well, we cut corners. Sometimes to save money, our animators will reuse the same backgrounds over and over and over again.
So, of course, the joke there is the fact that you saw the same person and a water cooler and the door over and over and over again. And again, that is a way that people can save money and resources in these particular animations. You probably have seen this in several different shows where the background is pretty much the same, or if they have like moving backgrounds like this, they could have made assets ahead of time and then basically just put them in over and over again. That's the later, in other words, this is what we're doing here. That's what we're going to be focusing on right now. So I've taken the liberty to make some assets ahead of time. Nothing too fancy, just elements like, again, a ground, a background, the actual walls, door, trash can, and little pillars that we have over here. Now, what we're going to do, and by the way, I've taken the time to also make them all into symbols. Technically, you don't really need to make them symbols in these cases, but it just makes things a lot easier for the next step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the elements that I have over here, and I'm going to convert them to a symbol. And I'm going to call this background. Now, the reason why I'm doing it this way is I've already taken the liberty of getting the actual size of the background that I'm going to need because it basically is measured up to my canvas that I have over here, or basically our stage, so to speak. So I'm going to call this actually moving background. And again, I'm going to keep it a graphic. And I'm going to actually double click to go inside said graphic right now. Now, to make this work the way that I want it to, I need to actually extend this a little bit because, well, if this is going to be a background the way that that can basically move, it needs to be a little bit longer. It's one of the reasons why I made this the way that I did. Oop, went a little bit too far in that. So I could do one of two things. Now, these areas over here, I didn't put a stroke into when I created them. So in theory, I could actually just scale them to make it longer. Alternatively, I could also take these areas, hit Command C, and then be able to paste them in place. And then I could just take this and move this over like so. And now that I've done that, I can basically just copy and paste these other areas. Or alternatively, I could just actually just bring them over and put them in where I might want to use them. And I don't need to basically make them exactly the same over and over again. Let's see which one this one is. That's pillar. So I could basically just put this one maybe over here. But you can also copy and paste to basically make sure they keep the same height and such like that. So I think I'm going to actually do, well, let's take a look. That's looking pretty close anyways. And of course I could make a copy of this trash can. Yep, here we go, trash, and I could put this in over here instead. So again, I'm adding a little bit of variety in these different parts. So now that that's done, I can go back to my scene. And again, just a bit of a heads up, we will only see whatever is rendered out over here. So we won't see anything else in this little spot. So that's actually kind of a good thing for us. So if I wanted to, now that this is an actual graphic, I could have it. So for the 4 seconds that I have here, because that's as long as I'm going to animate it, I could actually have it basically go from point A to start from here, end over here. So let's actually give that a look, see how that's going to look. I'm going to make a new layer just to be on the safe side. Actually, do I even need to do that? Oh, it's actually already put on my layer 3, so I don't even need to worry about that. And now that I have my 4 seconds here, again, I'm going to... And by the way, it's a good idea when you're animating to only put one element, or in this case, graphic or symbol at a time. So I'm going to call this background. And I'm going to convert this into a motion tween and take what I have here. And I'm holding shift when I'm moving this to basically move it from point A to point B. And you can give it a play to see how it looks. So it looks like, of course it always helps if you make sure that when you move it, you're on the last layer. So that's a little on me. Cool. Now it looks better. So I'm going to hit play again. It looks pretty good overall. There's a little bit of a white area over here that I probably could make look a little bit better. Okay. And for that last keyframe, yeah, there we go. If I'm thinking this is moving too fast, I could always reduce the distance or whatever. But yeah, this is basically kind of what I was looking for the moving background. That's it, pretty much. So again, if you want to do it with a proper background, like basically draw out something, you could do it that way too. Just as long as you make sure it's a graphic. Again, go to Insert, Create Motion Tween, and then just move it from point A to point B. That's pretty much the long and short of all of it. Now, if I want to make my character look like they're walking, I can also put my character in here, just make myself a new layer. And here's my walk. And yeah, if I'm basically having her walk the opposite direction, I'll have to go to Modify, Transform, and flip horizontally. And what I could do here is I could shrink her down a little bit so that she fits the scene a little bit better. Again, I only need pretty much her knees upwards. And there's still one last thing I want to fix on this. But again, I was able to make the animation a little bit tighter. But because I did the all the elements of basically taking 2 steps, and I basically made set up my layer. Again, you don't have to actually do any special tricks for this. Just make sure the layer is as long as you need to be. Animate should repeat it automatically once you run out of frames. So that's again one of the reasons why it's a good idea to make sure that the first and last frame are the same to be able to work with that. Now, one last thing that I do want to do in here, in case, and by the way, something that's nice about this is if you do need to make an adjustment or change, you can always do one after the fact, which is very awesome. So for example, here, if I do look for a walk cycle again, the big thing that was a bit of a problem that I'm going to actually fix right now is looks like certain areas need to go up and down a little bit more. So the recoil needs to go down, the high point needs to go up. So I'm actually going to fix that right now. So I'm going to bring my character down a little bit, and I'm going to zoom in so I can see my spots. So over here, I'm going to bring him down, or bring her down, is better said. Only a little bit. If you end up overdoing it, oops, that's an undo. If you end up overdoing it, it can create an effect that you might not want so much. So that looks good. So this area is fine, but this next area, this needs to go up a little. Oop, that's an undo. That's going to go up a little bit. So down, then up. And this is one of the reasons why I did those rotations ahead of time. So that the keys that I needed will be exactly where they're supposed to be. So this is going down, this is going up, this is going down, and this is going up. So let's see if this actually makes a difference. I'm going to play here. And it looks like it does. Cool. So now when I go back to my scene, my character is going to be basically walking in place, but because the background's moving, it'll look like she's actually moving herself. So it's like one of those little tricks that you can do to basically turn lesser animations into more. And that's basically what we want to do in this case. Now, I'm probably over-rotating the head. I'm looking at that now, and I think I could probably fix that up. But otherwise, I'm pretty satisfied with what I have. She's not moving too fast, but not too slow. I think we're almost ready to actually export this out. But just to be safe, I'm going to save this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you want to export this as an SWF, again, it's going to be one of the simpler files we can work with, just go to File, Export, and try to go to Export Movie. And just going to put this into my desktop over here, call it Walking. And again, you need to make sure it's an SWF movie, and save. Now, most of the time, you usually would have to get rid of the other elements that aren't being used, but the good news here is these two layers are a little bit higher, so that's not a big problem for me. But for the future, I will probably want to get rid of unnecessary layers. Here it is. And this is what I'm talking about. We don't actually see the legs, so that part's working just fine. If I really wanted to take the time, I could basically brush this up a little bit. But at least for a simple walk for our character, this should be able to do the job for us. And this is basically what I'd like to see by next week. Just try to do some, make sure that your rigging is working properly. Just rotate the arms and legs a little bit. Don't really even need to do the head. In fact, I kind of overdid that. But, you know, it's one of those things that you test things out, you try things, and if things work out, that's fantastic. And if it doesn't, well, you fix it when you have the opportunity. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what I'm looking for the next assignment. If you do have some questions, you're more than welcome to ask. I might even I think I'm going to actually leave this file on Blackboard so that if any of you do need to see the example and how to approach this, I will leave that up so you can get an idea. But that's pretty much the long and short of everything I'd like to do for this assignment. So again, something to consider is consider what kind of final project you want to do for yourself. If you're liking where these characters are going, you're more than welcome to use these for the actual final assignment. But there's also two other choices as well. One is going to be going more of a traditional route, similar to what we were doing originally in class, or alternatively, I also give options for a technique called rotoscope. That's something I'm going to be showing a little bit next week. And there's an option if any of you liked working with concept work, or if you feel more comfortable with pencil and paper, I would allow people to do animatics for a final project, because I see some people have a real passion for that, and that actually could be kind of cool to do. But again, we'll talk more about details on that a little bit later. Hopefully this gives you an idea of how to approach the next assignment, and hopefully teaches you a couple things. If you do have any questions, please email me ASAP. And once again, take care, and I'll see y'all on the next one.